Steven Seagal sits alone at a quiet corner table in a small family-owned diner in Louisiana, far from the Hollywood spotlight. He's dressed casually, black jacket, sunglasses resting on the table, just a man enjoying his coffee and gumbo in peace. A young waitress approaches nervously, refilling his cup. She doesn't recognize him. To her, he's just another customer passing through town. Across the diner, a middle-aged man in a worn work shirt glances over. His face hardens. He nudges his buddy and mutters something under his breath. The friend looks over, shakes his head, and they both stare. The tension is subtle, but it's there. Steven notices. He's spent decades reading rooms, sensing danger before it arrives. But he doesn't react. He just takes another sip of coffee, eyes forward. The man in the work shirt stands up. His chair scrapes loudly against the floor. The diner goes quiet. He walks slowly toward Steven's table, hands in his pockets.
Jaw clenched. "Hey," the man says, standing over him.
"You're that actor, right?" Steven looks up calmly. "I am." "Thought so." The man's tone isn't friendly. "You think you're tough, huh?" "All those movies. Fake fights, fake everything." A few other customers turn to watch. The waitress freezes near the kitchen, unsure what to do. Steven sets his fork down gently. "I'm just here to eat, friend." "Friend?" The man laughs bitterly. "You don't know me. You don't know what real struggle is." The air thickens. This isn't about autographs or fame. Something deeper is brewing. The man's fists clench at his sides. His breathing grows heavier. Whatever pain he's carrying, it's been building for a long time, and now it's spilling out here, in this quiet Louisiana diner. Aimed directly at a stranger he thinks represents everything wrong with the world. Steven remains perfectly still, his expression unreadable. He could end this confrontation in seconds if he wanted to. He's trained for it. But instead he simply waits, giving the man space to say what he needs to say. What happened next left everyone in that diner speechless, and it's not what you'd expect from Steven Seagal. The man doesn't move. He stands there, arms crossed now, staring down at Steven like he's waiting for a reaction, any reaction. Steven remains calm. His voice is low, steady. "If something's bothering you, we can talk about it. But not like this."
"Talk?"
The man scoffs. "You Hollywood types don't talk. You lecture. You pretend to care." His friend from the table approaches now, trying to pull him back. "Come on, man. Let's just go." But the man shakes him off. "No. I'm tired of seeing people like him act like they understand the real world." The waitress whispers to the cook, who peeks out from the kitchen. A couple near the window pulls out their phone, not to call for help, but to record. Steven notices the phone. He doesn't flinch. He's been recorded 1,000 times. But this moment feels different. More personal. More raw. "Listen," Steven says, his tone firm but not aggressive. "I don't know what I did to upset you, but I'm not your enemy. You didn't do anything to me." The man says, voice cracking slightly. "That's the point. People like you live in a bubble. You don't see us. You don't care." There's pain in his voice now. Not just anger. Pain. The diner is dead silent. Even the cook has stopped moving. The sizzle of the grill fades into the background. Everyone's attention is locked on this confrontation unfolding in real time. Steven takes a slow breath. He could walk away. He could have security called. He could embarrass this man with a single move if he wanted to. The training is there. The muscle memory. The ability to shut this down instantly. But he doesn't. Instead, he does something no one expected. He stands up, slowly, respectfully, and looks the man in the eye. "You're right," Steven says quietly. The man blinks, caught off guard. His arms drop slightly. He wasn't prepared for agreement. He came ready for a fight, for defensiveness, for the typical celebrity dismissal. "You're right," Steven repeats, his voice steady and sincere. "I don't know your life. I don't know your pain, and I'm sorry if I ever made you feel invisible." The man's jaw tightens. His fists clench again. For a moment, it looks like he might swing. The tension is that thick. His friend takes a step closer, ready to intervene if necessary, but then the man's shoulders drop. Just a little. Just enough to show that something inside him has shifted. "My brother?" The man says, voice barely above a whisper. "He looked up to you. Watched all your movies. Wanted to be like you." Steven waits. He doesn't interrupt. Doesn't rush to fill the silence with empty platitudes. He died 2 years ago. Overseas. And no one cared. No headlines. No tributes. Just gone. The room feels heavy now. The weight of grief settles over everything like a fog. The waitress wipes her eyes with the corner of her apron. Even the guy recording lowers his phone slightly, realizing he's witnessing something far more sacred than viral content. Steven doesn't offer empty condolences. He doesn't say, "I'm sorry for your loss," like it's a script line he's memorized for public appearances. He doesn't reach for the convenient phrase that makes uncomfortable moments easier to escape. Instead, he places a hand on the man's shoulder. The gesture is gentle but firm, grounding. "What was his name?" Steven asks, his voice soft but clear. The man's voice cracks. His eyes fill with tears he's been holding back for who knows how long. "Marcus. Marcus." Steven repeats, letting the name sit in the air with the respect it deserves. He says it like he's committing it to memory. Like this young man who died overseas, who loved action movies and dreamed of being a hero matters. Because he does. "Thank you for telling me about him," Steven says. The man named Marcus, sharing his brother's name, carrying his brother's memory, stands there trembling slightly. His anger has transformed into something else now, something more vulnerable, more honest. His friend puts a supportive hand on his back. The cook emerges slightly from the kitchen, witnessing this moment of raw humanity. The other customers sit frozen, some with forks halfway to their mouths, completely absorbed in what's unfolding. Have you ever seen someone diffuse a tense situation with pure respect? Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We want to hear from you around the world. The man named Marcus's friend steps closer now, no longer trying to pull him away, but standing beside him in quiet solidarity. There's something about witnessing genuine emotion that brings people together, even strangers. Steven gestures to his table. "Sit with me. Both of you." The man hesitates. His pride is still bruised, his grief still raw and exposed in front of all these people. He came in angry, looking for confrontation, and now he's standing here vulnerable. Tears in his eyes, his pain on full display. But something in Steven's eyes, something genuine, something that goes beyond the movie star persona, breaks through the last wall of resistance. Slowly he sits. His friend follows, settling into the chair beside him. The waitress approaches cautiously, her own eyes still wet from what she's witnessed. "Can I get you gentlemen anything?" "Coffee," Steven says, his tone gentle. "And whatever they want." "On me." "We don't need your charity," Marcus says, but there's less bite in his voice now. The edge has dulled. What remains is exhaustion and the weight of 2 years of carrying grief alone. "It's not charity," Steven replies, meeting his eyes directly. "It's respect." For the next several minutes, they sit in silence. The diner gradually returns to a semblance of normalcy around them. Forks scraping plates, low murmurs of conversation, the ding of the kitchen timer, but at their table there's only quiet. Steven doesn't try to fill the space with words. He doesn't rush to make Marcus feel better or move past the uncomfortable moment. He just lets Marcus breathe, lets him exist in his grief without pressure to perform or explain or apologize. The waitress returns with 2 steaming cups of coffee, setting them down carefully. She catches Steven's eye and gives him a small, grateful nod before retreating. Finally, Marcus speaks. His voice is softer now, the anger completely drained away. "He used to do your moves in the backyard. Thought he was invincible." A sad smile crosses his face, the kind that only comes when remembering someone you've lost. "He wasn't. None of us are," Steven says softly, his words carrying the weight of someone who's lived long enough to understand mortality intimately. "But you act like you are. In the movies." Steven nods slowly, acknowledging the point. "In the movies, yeah. But that's not real. What your brother did. Serving. Sacrificing. That takes more courage than anything I've ever done on screen." Marcus looks down at his coffee, eyes wet again. The grief is never far from the surface. "I wish someone had told him that," he whispers. That what he was doing mattered. That he was brave. Really brave. Steven leans forward slightly, his presence focused entirely on the man across from him. "I wish I could have told him that too." The friend who's been silent this whole time finally speaks. His voice is rough with emotion. "He would have loved this. Sitting here with you, talking like people. Not like a fan meeting a celebrity, but just people." Steven smiles faintly, and there's something genuinely warm in it. That's all we are. Just people. The tension that filled the diner minutes ago has completely dissolved. Customers who were watching have turned back to their meals, though a few still glance over with quiet admiration. They've witnessed something powerful, a moment where ego could have won but humility prevailed instead. The man recording earlier has pocketed his phone entirely. This doesn't feel like something to exploit or turn into clickbait. It feels sacred. Private, even though it's happening in public. Marcus wipes his face with the back of his hand, embarrassed by his tears but no longer trying to hide them. I'm sorry I came at you like that. You didn't deserve it. Don't be. Steven says firmly but kindly. You had every right to feel what you felt. But I didn't have the right to take it out on you. You're just a guy trying to eat lunch. Maybe not. But I'm glad you did. Marcus looks confused, his brow furrowing. Why? Steven's answer is simple but profound. Because now I know about Marcus, and I won't forget him. The words hang in the air between them. Simple, honest, powerful. Not a promise made lightly or a platitude offered to smooth things over. A genuine commitment from one human being to another. Marcus's friend extends his hand across the table, his grip firm when Steven takes it. Thank you, man. Seriously, you didn't have to do any of this. Yes, I did, Steven replies quietly. As Steven, Marcus, and his friend continue talking, the diner slowly returns to its normal rhythm. But something has fundamentally shifted in the atmosphere. People aren't just eating anymore. They're watching, listening, absorbing the lesson unfolding at that corner table. There's a quality to the air now, something almost reverent. An older woman 2 tables over leans toward her husband, keeping her voice low, but audible in the relative quiet. That's how you handle conflict, she whispers, nodding toward Steven's table. With dignity. Her husband nods slowly, his weathered face thoughtful. Doesn't matter who you are. Respect is respect. Near the window, a teenage girl who'd been scrolling on her phone earlier is now completely focused on the conversation happening across the room. She doesn't know much about Steven Seagal's movies. They're from before her time, part of her parents' generation. But she knows she's witnessing something rare. 2 strangers finding common ground in the middle of pain. The waitress approaches again, this time with a plate of fresh bayonets, powdered sugar dusting the top. On the house, she says quietly, setting them down in the center of the table. For all of you. Steven smiles at her warmly. Thank you. That's very kind. She hesitates, then speaks, her voice trembling slightly. My son's deployed right now. Marines, and every day I worry. Her voice trails off, the unspoken fears hanging heavy between them. The fear every military parent carries. The knowledge that a knock on the door could change everything. Steven stands immediately and gently takes her hand in both of his. The gesture is paternal, comforting. He's going to come home. And when he does, you make sure he knows how proud you are. Every single day, her eyes fill with tears. She nods quickly, not trusting herself to say more without breaking down completely, and walks away toward the kitchen, one hand covering her mouth. Marcus watches this exchange, and something softens in him even further. The hardness that brought him to Steven's table in the first place continues to dissolve. You do this a lot, don't you? Connect with people like this? Steven sits back down, picking up his coffee cup. I try. Doesn't always work. Sometimes people just want an autograph or a photo. But I try. Why? Marcus asks, genuinely curious now. You're famous, you're rich. You don't have to care about people like us. That's exactly why I do. Steven replies, his voice carrying conviction. Fame can isolate you. Make you forget you're human. Make you think you're somehow above or separate from everyone else. I never want to forget that. I'm just a guy who happened to make some movies. His friend speaks up again, leaning forward on his elbows. You know, Marcus's brother wasn't just a fan of your action stuff. He loved that you talked about honor in your movies. Discipline. Standing up for what's right. He took that stuff seriously. Steven listens carefully, giving the words the attention they deserve. He tried to live that way. The friend continues, his voice growing more passionate. Even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. When other guys were cutting corners or taking the easy path, Marcus Jr. stuck to his principles. Then he understood something most people don't. Steven says, his tone serious and respectful. That real strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about how you treat people when no one's watching. When there's no camera, no audience, no reward. That's when character shows. Marcus stares at his coffee cup, turning it slowly in his hands, the ceramic warm against his palms. I wish I'd told him that more. That I was proud of him. I always thought there'd be more time. That he'd come back and we'd have years to say all the things brothers are supposed to say. He knew. Steven says with absolute certainty, no hesitation in his voice. Brothers always know. The cook emerges from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. He's a large man with kind eyes and graying hair. He walks over, standing a respectful distance away, not wanting to intrude but needing to say something. Excuse me, Mr. Seagal, he says, his Louisiana accent thick and warm. I just want to say thank you for how you handled this. A lot of folks would have walked out or made a scene. Called security. Made that young man feel small. You didn't. You stayed, Steven nods humbly. It's important to stay. It's important to listen. The cook glances at Marcus, his expression compassionate. And you, brother, I'm sorry about your loss. We all are. He gestures around the diner, and several people nod in agreement, some raising their coffee cups slightly in a silent salute. Marcus is overwhelmed. He didn't come here for sympathy. He came angry, looking for a fight, looking for someone to blame for the unfairness of losing his brother. Instead, he found a room full of people who cared. Thank you, he says, his voice thick with emotion. All of you. This means more than you know. As the conversation winds down slightly, Marcus pulls out his phone from his jeans pocket. His hand shakes slightly as he scrolls through his photos, swiping past recent images until he finds what he's looking for. He stops on one particular picture and stares at it for a moment, gathering his courage. Then he turns the screen toward Steven. It's a picture of a young man in military fatigues, smiling wide, his arm draped around Marcus's shoulder. They look alike, same strong jaw, same determined eyes, same proud stance. The resemblance is unmistakable. Brothers in every sense. That's him, Marcus says, his voice barely steady. That's Marcus Jeter. Steven takes the phone carefully, holding it with both hands as if it's something precious. He studies the photo carefully, taking in every detail. The genuine joy in the young man's eyes, the confidence in his posture, the bond evident between the two brothers. He had a good smile. You can tell he was genuine, the kind of person who meant what he said. He was. Marcus says, voice breaking slightly. He really was, no filters, no pretense. What you saw was what you got. Tell me about him, Steven says, handing the phone back gently. Not just the soldier part. Tell me about who he was before that, before the uniform. Marcus takes a deep breath, and for the next several minutes he talks. The words pour out like water from a broken dam. Stories he's been holding inside for 2 years with no one to tell them to. He talks about how his brother loved basketball, how they'd play one on one in the driveway until it was too dark to see the hoop. How Marcus Jeter used to do terrible impressions of action movie heroes, including Steven's characters, making their mom laugh until she cried. How he'd work double shifts at the garage to help pay their younger sister's college tuition, without ever mentioning it to anyone. He talks about the letters Marcus Jeter would send home from overseas. Long, detailed letters about the friends he made, the villages he visited, the kids who reminded him why he served. How he'd send photos of himself playing soccer with local children, his rifle set aside, just a young American connecting with people half a world away. Steven listens to every word. No interruptions, no checking his watch, no glancing at his phone. Just pure, undivided attention. His coffee grows cold in the cup, forgotten. The bayonets sit untouched. None of that matters right now. Marcus's friend adds details here and there. The time Marcus Jeter drove 4 hours in the middle of the night to help a friend whose car broke down. The way he'd volunteer at the VA hospital before he enlisted. Talking to older veterans about their experiences, learning from them. When Marcus finally finishes, there's a long silence. Not awkward, but full. The kind of silence that follows something sacred being shared. Finally, Steven speaks, leaning forward with his elbows on the table. You know what I think? What? Marcus asks, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. I think your brother is still teaching you. Even now. Even after he's gone. Marcus frowns, confused. What do you mean? You came in here angry. Hurting. Looking for someone to blame. Looking for a target for all that pain you've been carrying. And instead, you found a way to honor him. By sharing his story. By letting people know he existed. By making sure his life meant something. That's powerful. That's exactly what he would have wanted. Marcus hadn't thought of it that way. He'd been so consumed by the grief, by the unfairness of it all, that he hadn't seen the bigger picture. And I'll tell you something else. Steven continues, his voice steady and sure. Every person in this diner now knows about Marcus Jeter. They'll remember him. They'll tell other people about what they heard today. That kid who played basketball and did terrible impressions and helped pay for his sister's college. That young man who wrote letters home about soccer games with kids in villages. That's a legacy. That's immortality. The friend nods emphatically. He's right, man. Your brother's story just reached all these people. That matters. Marcus wipes his eyes again, overwhelmed. I just miss him. Every single day. Every morning I wake up and for a second I forget he's gone. And then I remember and it's like losing him all over again. You're supposed to feel that way, Steven says gently, his tone compassionate but not pitying. That's what love looks like when someone's gone. It doesn't go away. It doesn't get easier, really. It just changes shape. The pain becomes part of you, and eventually you learn to carry it. The older woman from earlier stands and walks over, moving slowly with age but with purpose. She places a weathered hand on Marcus's shoulder, her touch gentle. God bless you and your family, sweetheart. Your brother was a hero, a real hero. Others in the diner murmur in agreement. A construction worker at the counter raises his coffee cup. A woman with her young daughter nods respectfully. Marcus is completely overwhelmed. He came looking for a fight and found a community. He came looking to blame someone and found people who cared. If you were in that diner, would you have stepped in, stayed quiet, or recorded it? Let us know in the comments. Steven stands, extending his hand across the table. Thank you for sitting with me. Seriously, this meant something. This conversation, your brother's story, it matters. Marcus stands too, gripping Steven's hand firmly. The handshake is strong, meaningful. Nothing like the aggressive confrontation that brought them together just minutes ago. I should be thanking you. I came in here ready to. I don't even know what I was going to do. I was just so angry. We can both be grateful. Steven says with a small smile, genuine warmth in his expression. Sometimes the best conversations are the ones we didn't plan. As Marcus and his friend prepare to leave, gathering their things and pushing their chairs back under the table, the teenage girl from earlier approaches shyly. She's clutching her phone, but not in the way people do when they want a selfie. There's something more thoughtful in her demeanor. Excuse me. She says, her voice soft but clear. I just wanted to say, I recorded part of what happened. Not to post it or anything like that, but because I thought it was beautiful. The way you talked to each other, the way you listened. Would it be okay if I shared it? To show people how to be kind. Marcus looks at Steven, unsure how to respond. This is new territory for him. He's never been part of anything viral, never had his life become public content. Steven addresses the girl directly, his tone respectful of her question, but making sure Marcus understands this is his choice. That's up to him. It's his story. His brother's story. Marcus thinks for a moment, weighing the privacy he's guarded so carefully for 2 years against the possibility that his brother's memory could reach beyond this small diner. Finally, he nods slowly.
Yeah.
Share it. Maybe someone needs to see it. Maybe someone else out there is carrying the same kind of pain and needs to know they're not alone. The girl smiles, relief and gratitude washing over her face. Thank you, both of you. I promise I'll be respectful with it. I trust you, Marcus says, and he means it. She returns to her table, and Marcus's friend claps him on the shoulder. You did good, man. Your brother would be proud of how you handled this. Marcus swallows hard. I hope so. They shake Steven's hand one more time, exchange a few final words, and head toward the door. But before they leave, Marcus turns back. Hey, Mr. Seagal. Just Steven, he replies. Steven, Marcus corrects himself. If you're ever back in Louisiana, look me up. I'd like to buy you that coffee for real. I'd like that, Steven says, and it's clear he means it. The door closes behind them, and the diner seems to exhale collectively. Conversations resume at normal volume. The cook returns to the kitchen. The waitress starts clearing tables. But everyone in that room knows they witnessed something extraordinary. The older couple near the window talks quietly about what they saw. The construction worker at the counter sits a little straighter, thinking about his own relationships, his own unspoken words. The mother with her young daughter leans down and whispers something about kindness and courage. Steven sits back down at his table. His coffee is cold now, his gumbo long since congealed, but he doesn't care. He pulls out a small notebook from his jacket pocket, something he's carried for years to jot down thoughts, observations, moments worth remembering. He writes, Marcus Jr. basketball. Bad impressions, good heart, overseas. Loved his family, made a difference. Simple words, but they're his commitment to remember. To carry this young man's story with him, the waitress approaches one more time. Can I get you anything fresh? A new bowl of gumbo, hot coffee. Just the check, please, Steven says kindly. She shakes her head, no charge. Boss said so. What you did here today, that's worth more than any meal. I can't accept that. Steven protests. You can and you will. She says firmly, a small smile on her lips. Besides, you already paid for those 2 gentlemen's coffee. Let us do this. Steven knows when not to argue. Then please accept this, he says, pulling out several bills and handing them to her. For you, not the restaurant. You. She tries to refuse, but he closes her hand around the money. For your son. When he comes home, take him somewhere special. She breaks down, tears streaming freely now, and impulsively hugs Steven. He hugs her back, this stranger who became part of something bigger today. Thank you, she whispers. Thank you for being human. When she pulls away, she's smiling through her tears. She walks back to the kitchen, and Steven can hear her telling the cook what just happened, both of them emotional. Steven gathers his things slowly. He puts on his sunglasses, picks up his jacket, and prepares to leave this small Louisiana diner that will now forever be part of his story. But before he reaches the door, the entire diner, as if coordinated by some invisible signal, begins to applaud. Not wildly, not seeking attention. Just honest, heartfelt applause for a moment of genuine humanity. Steven nods humbly, raises a hand in acknowledgement, and steps out into the Louisiana sunshine. Later that evening, the video begins to spread. Not as clickbait, not sensationalized with dramatic thumbnails or misleading captions. Just raw footage of two men sitting in a diner, talking like humans. The teenage girl who recorded it posted it with a simple caption. This is what respect looks like. This is what listening looks like. This is what we need more of. Within hours, the views climb. 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. The algorithm picks it up, pushing it to people who need to see it. People who are tired of outrage and division and performative conflict. The comments pour in, thousands of them. This is what real strength looks like. Not throwing punches. Listening. I'm crying. This is the most beautiful thing I've seen in years. Steven Seagal just earned my respect forever. I never knew he was like this. R.P. Marcus Jeter, thank you for your service. Your brother made sure we'll never forget you. I lost my brother too. This hit me so hard. We're not alone. This is the content we need. Not drama. Not fake beef. Just humanity. News outlets pick up the story by morning. But they struggle to spin it into something controversial or divisive. There's no villain here, no scandal. No gotcha moment. Just grace under pressure. Just two people finding common ground. A local Louisiana news station interviews the diner owner, a weathered man in his 60s who's run the place for 30 years. We see a lot of people come through here, he says, standing in front of his establishment. Tourists, locals, celebrities occasionally. But what happened yesterday, that was special. That was the kind of thing that restores your faith. The waitress is interviewed too, sitting in a booth during her break. She talks about the moment Steven held her hand, about how it gave her hope for her own son overseas. He didn't have to do that, she says, wiping her eyes with a napkin. He could have just walked away from the whole situation. But he stayed, he listened. That's who he really is, beneath all the movie star stuff. Meanwhile, Steven is back in his hotel room, alone. He doesn't check social media, he rarely does. Doesn't read the headlines or scroll through comments. That's not why he did what he did. Instead, he sits quietly by the window, looking out at the city lights, thinking about Marcus Jeter, about the brother who carries his name and his memory. He pulls out his notebook again and writes a longer message this time. To Marcus Jeter, I never met you, but your brother made sure I'll never forget you. You served with honor, you lived with love, you helped people who couldn't help themselves, you made your family proud. That's all any of us can hope to do. Rest easy, brother. Your story lives on. He tears the page out carefully, folds it with precise creases and tucks it into his wallet. He'll keep it there, a reminder of today, of what matters. Across town, Marcus is at home in his small apartment. His friend left an hour ago, but he's still awake, sitting on his couch in the dark, staring at the framed photo of his brother on the wall, the same one he showed Steven. His phone buzzes constantly. Messages from people he hasn't heard from in years. Cousins, old friends, people from his brother's unit, all of them saying they saw the video. All of them sharing their own memories of Marcus Jeter. Then a new message appears, this one from the teenage girl who recorded everything. The video has 2 million views. People are donating to veteran charities in your brother's name. Over 50,000 so far. I thought you should know. Marcus stares at the screen, completely stunned. His hands start shaking. 2 million people know about his brother now. 2 million people heard his story. He opens the video link she sent, watches himself walk up to Steven's table, angry and hurting. Watches the anger melt away as Steven stands and says, "You're right." Watches himself sit down. Watches himself smile, actually smile, when talking about his brother's basketball dreams and terrible impressions. And for the first time in 2 years, he doesn't feel alone in his grief. He feels connected. To Steven. To everyone in that diner. To the 2 million strangers who now carry a piece of Marcus Jenner's memory. He types a message to Steven, not knowing if it'll actually reach him, but needing to send it anyway. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for hearing him. You gave my brother the tribute he deserved. Marcus. He hits send and sets his phone down, not expecting a response. But hours later, just before midnight, his phone lights up with a reply. It was an honor. Your brother's legacy lives through you. Take care of yourself and keep telling his story, Steven. Marcus reads it 3 times. Then he gets up, walks to his brother's photo, and touches the frame gently. They know you now. He whispers. The whole world knows you now. Do you think this moment changed both of their lives? Type respect in the comments if this story moved you.